The sun was dipping low across the endless plains, painting the sky in strokes of orange and crimson. A gentle wind stirred the dry grass around a tiny wooden cabin at the edge of town, where Mary lived with her 2 children, Tommy and Lily. Life had not been kind to them. Mary's husband, John, a kind-hearted ranch hand, had died 3 years earlier in a tragic accident while breaking wild horses. Since then, Mary struggled every day to keep her family fed. She worked odd jobs, washed laundry for neighbors, and sometimes went to bed hungry so her children could have a little more on their plates. Despite the hardship, Mary carried herself with quiet dignity. Her children were her strength. 12-year-old Tommy had taken on the role of protector far too young, chopping firewood, fixing fences, and keeping an eye out for his little sister. Lily, just 7, brought light to their small home with her constant laughter and innocence. Their lives were simple, their dreams small, and survival was their only goal. One late evening, as twilight spread over the land, Tommy rushed inside with alarm in his voice. "Mama, there's someone out there, by the trail. I think he's hurt." Mary quickly grabbed a lantern and followed him. Just beyond the edge of their fence lay a man, collapsed in the dirt. His clothes were dusty, his boots worn, and his breathing ragged. He looked like a cowboy from the old days, yet there was something commanding about him even in his weakness. Mary knelt beside him, brushing back his sweat-soaked hair. "Sir, can you hear me?" The man stirred, his lips dry. "Water," he whispered hoarsely. Without hesitation, Mary sent Tommy to fetch some. The stranger drank greedily, then lost consciousness again. His face was weathered, his hands calloused, but his appearance hinted at someone who once knew privilege: a fine leather belt, a silver buckle, and a gold ring dulled with dirt. Mary knew they barely had enough to survive themselves, but she couldn't leave him there to die. With Tommy's help, she dragged the cowboy into their cabin and laid him on her late husband's bed. She tended to his fever through the night, sponging his forehead and praying silently for strength. Days passed. The stranger drifted between life and death. Mary boiled herbs, fed him broth, and whispered encouragement even when he could not hear. Tommy watched him warily, while Lily sat by his side, holding his hand with childlike trust. At last, on the 4th morning, his eyes opened fully. He studied the room, the children, and then the widow who had saved him. "Where am I?" he rasped. "You're safe," Mary said gently. "You collapsed on the trail. We brought you here." The man tried to sit but winced in pain. "I should go. Don't want to trouble you." "You're not going anywhere," Mary said firmly. "Not until you can stand on your own 2 feet. Something softened in his expression. No one had spoken to him with such care in years. He introduced himself simply: Samuel Carter. He did not share more, and Mary did not press him. Samuel's strength returned slowly. Each day, Tommy helped him walk a little farther outside. Lily insisted on telling him stories, her chatter pulling reluctant smiles from the hardened cowboy. He began to notice the widow's worn hands, the patched clothes, the way she tried to hide her own hunger by giving her children the larger portions. He realized they had saved him despite having almost nothing themselves. One evening, as the fire crackled, Samuel asked, "Why'd you do it? Why risk helping a stranger? You didn't even know if I was dangerous." Mary looked at him, her tired eyes calm. "Because you were a man dying on the road. My husband once told me that in this life, we only keep what we give. If I turned you away, I'd be losing more than food or rest. I'd be losing myself." Her words struck Samuel like a bullet. For years he had lived in bitterness, estranged from his wealthy family. He had once been heir to vast ranches and fortune, but betrayal from his brother and a lifetime of loneliness had driven him away. He wandered the land with his wealth hidden, too proud to return home, too broken to trust anyone. Yet here was a poor widow who had given him shelter without expecting a thing. As weeks passed, Samuel became part of their household. He fixed broken fences, taught Tommy how to handle horses, and whittled toys for Lily. At first, the townsfolk whispered, warning Mary that strangers brought trouble. But she trusted her instincts, and the children had already grown attached. Tommy began to see Samuel as the father figure he had lost. The cowboy taught him courage, discipline, and the value of honor. Lily adored him, climbing onto his knee and making him promise he'd never leave. And Mary, though cautious, felt something stirring in her heart, something she had long buried since John's death. One stormy night, Samuel finally shared his past. He told Mary everything: his wealthy upbringing, his betrayal by his own kin, his wandering years filled with regret. "I was dying out there not just from sickness," he admitted. "I was dying from being empty inside." His voice cracked. "And you and these children, you gave me back something I thought I lost forever, a reason to live." Tears welled in Mary's eyes. She reached for his hand. Sometimes God brings people into our lives for reasons we can't see right away. But Samuel's health remained fragile. Months later, he collapsed again, coughing blood. The doctor shook his head gravely. Years of hard living had taken their toll. Samuel knew his time was short. In those final days, he made secret arrangements. He wrote letters, signed documents, and called in an old lawyer from town. He never spoke of it openly, but he looked at the family with a peace he hadn't felt in decades. On a quiet morning, as the children played outside, Samuel sat with Mary. "When I go," he said softly, "I don't want you to cry too long. I want you to live. Promise me you'll let yourself be happy." Mary's tears spilled freely. "Don't talk like that. The children need you. I need you." He smiled faintly, brushing her cheek. "You've already saved me, Mary. That's more than I could ever ask." That night, Samuel passed away in his sleep, a gentle smile still on his face. The family was devastated. Lily wept for days, Tommy clenched his fists in silent grief, and Mary felt her heart break all over again. Yet a week later, everything changed. A lawyer arrived at their small cabin with papers in hand. Samuel Carter, he explained, had been one of the wealthiest ranchers in the state. Though estranged from his kin, he had left everything, his ranch, his fortune, his land, to Mary and her children. At first, Mary refused. "We didn't help him for money," she said. "I know," the lawyer replied. "That's why he chose you. He said you were the only people who ever gave without asking." The widow and her children moved to Samuel's ranch. It was vast, rolling hills, strong cattle, a grand house. For the first time, Mary didn't have to worry about her children going hungry. Tommy grew into a fine young man, managing the ranch with honor, always remembering Samuel's lessons. Lily filled the halls with laughter, her joy carrying the memory of the cowboy who had once sat and carved toys for her. And Mary often walked the land at dusk, whispering a prayer of gratitude for the stranger who had changed their lives forever. They never forgot Samuel Carter, not the rich man he once was, but the weary cowboy who came into their lives broken and left them with a future brighter than they ever dared to dream. And so the story spread through the town and beyond, how a poor widow and her children saved a dying cowboy, never knowing he would give them far more than they had given him.